The story begins with the princess of humanity named Ha Jingna saying that as soon as he defeats the demon king, he'll return so they can have an incredible wedding. Crowned, he tells her not to worry, promising that he will definitely bring victory to their race. In the next scene, he is already face to face with the strongest base of the demons. Standing in front of it, he yells that he wants to see them resist this attack. With that, his entire group charges toward the demon king. On that day, it had been 18 years since he joined the human army, and now finally they were about to destroy the strongest base of the demons. This was the last step for humanity to reclaim all of their lands. The protagonist declares that the battle of thousands of years will end by his hand. He slashes at the demon king and claims that this is humanity's final victory. However, the creature looks at him and asks if he's sure about that. The system then warns him of the danger. The demon's stomach begins to swell, and he announces that if he's going to die, everyone will go with him. The poor protagonist asks why the demon has to be so toxic. With that, a massive explosion wipes out the area. As the smoke begins to clear, the system informs him that he has 2 minutes left to live. However, it also congratulates him for his leadership and for his contribution to the human race. As a reward for all he has done, he is given the chance to be reincarnated. The system asks if he wants to accept, and he clicks yes immediately. Only an idiot would refuse something like that. Then he hears a voice telling him to wake up because they're coming. He opens his eyes and realizes he has been reincarnated. Standing up, he mutters that the damn demon king thought it would be easy to kill him. But right next to him, there is a group of horned demons staring at him. The protagonist looks around and asks why there's a bunch of ugly demons staring at him like that. An old demon named Lottie tells him to get moving because the Blue Union is coming and they're all going to die. Touching his face, the protagonist asks what the old man is talking about. Then he notices a mirror nearby and slowly moves to take a look. He is reincarnated as a ranky demon named Gan Dongwo. Panicked, he asks why in the world he reincarnated as a demon. He calls the damn system and demands an explanation as to why the hero of humanity has been reborn as a filthy creature like this. The other demons watch in confusion. The system appears and apologizes, saying it was a small error during the reincarnation process. He demands the system fix it, but it explains that, unfortunately, nothing can be done. In frustration, he grabs the system and demands to speak to the manager to find out who's running this mess. The system then says it will try to create an opportunity for him to be reborn. A mission appears. He can reincarnate as a human if he dies again. However, suicide won't work. The system disappears before his eyes. The demons around and ask if Yam Dongwol has gone crazy since waking up. The old man, Lottie, tells them not to worry. Every time something bad happens, he turns useless. Meanwhile, Dongwo is more concerned about the human princess marrying someone else. Then, a ranky mage named Lao Meyer says she senses the Blue Union approaching. Except for their leader, who is rank B, they stand no chance against these enemies. The only way to survive is to use the escape route. If the Union captures them, they'll be tortured. This Blue Union is actually a friend of Dongwo's, but now he's a demon, so he has the obvious idea of fighting the humans so he can die and reincarnate. He heads toward the cave. The demons ask what he thinks he's doing. The old man warns him to leave because it's full of humans, but the protagonist says running away won't solve anyone's problems. He'll buy them as much time as possible so they can escape. The others are impressed and ask if this is the coward they'd always known. Suddenly, Dongwu senses something. A magic circle appears above and rocks start falling. When he looks, the only exit is completely blocked. Then small footsteps approach. The daughter of the Demon King, a rank B demon named Liu Bingyi, says they grew up together. She refuses to leave anyone behind at a time like this. But Dongwo already wants to kill this girl who refuses to let him die. He prepares to punch her, telling her to forget it. He punches the rock, but he ends up losing health instead. Turning back, he calls her stupid, all while thinking about how much his hand hurts. Poor Binky wonders why she's being scolded. Meanwhile, Lottie asks how he dares speak to royalty like that. Dongwo responds that they should never underestimate a man's determination to sacrifice himself for others. Bingy blushes as she had never noticed how manly and courageous this boy could be. However, the others start saying that if the lunatic wants to die, they should let him. After all, everyone else needs to escape. Dongwu says that all they've been doing is hiding and asks what's so terrifying about humans, claiming that he's a brave demon. For everyone's safety, he will die with dignity. The group is left impressed while Dongwu desperately begs them to believe this nonsense. The problem is that Bingy is all emotional now. Lottie says it's better to let the boy go since he seems so determined. With that, Dongwu happily strides off, and indeed he soon comes face to face with the humans. Opening his arms wide, he taunts them to come at him, calling them a bunch of weak soldiers and daring anyone brave enough to kill him. The humans rush toward him, shouting about how they've just received a free target. Dongwu was overjoyed, thinking he will finally be reincarnated and return to being human. However, an arrow suddenly flies and hits one of the humans in the chest. Instantly, panic ensues as the humans scream that's a trap. Lottie, who has entered an exalted state, has risen to rank B+. He declares that it has been 3 years since he felt the thrill of battle like he did when fighting alongside the Demon King. The system explains that demons can gain a temporary surge of power when in an emotionally heightened state. Poor Donwo is devastated. Laudigan explains that ever since the Demon King's death, a lack of resistance had allowed humans to continue attacking demon lands. Because the demons kept running away, the humans assumed they were weak and kept taking everything. He then tells Donwo that this time he's absolutely right. Beimi steps forward, declaring that today the demon race will resist. The Blue Union soldiers are confused by what's happening, while Donwo stands frozen, wondering why these demons are getting so inspired. Suddenly, Beimi also enters an exalted state and rises to rank A. She announces that no demon will be left behind today. The humans are terrified as there wasn't supposed to be a rank A demon there. Bingyi begins to unleash a cosmic explosion of tribulation fire. She attacks the humans mercilessly, and in the next moment, a massive crater is formed. The once powerful Blue Union has been obliterated. To make things worse for Dongwo, he levels up not by 1, not by 10 levels at once, and gains a pile of items. The poor guy collapses to the ground crying, saying that ever since his first day as a demon, all he has wanted is to die. The scene shifts to the capital city of Yu and the Hu residence, a horn demon named Kayan Duko. Though calling them horn is a bit pointless, since everyone is, after all, asks about the failed plan. Another demon wearing glasses responds to the royal figure, confirming the plan's failure. The original idea had been to wait for the perfect moment when Her Majesty was completely surrounded by the Blue Union. At that exact moment, Master Chang Wujin would lead the demon army to rescue her dramatically. He would stand atop the corpses of the humans and bring her back by the arm, ensuring she fell for him. However, the plan was a complete failure because Bingyi entered an exalted state and wiped out the Blue Union. Kanduko then turns to the demon on the throne and asks the general what they should do now. The figure on the throne, Huan, declares that all military power still rests in his hands. Using the influence of the 3 great demon orders, they will force her to marry his son. He commands his troops to march the next day and make a formal marriage proposal. That nonsense about winning her love is a complete waste of time. At that moment, Binyi is thinking about the protagonist, recalling how manly he was in such a dangerous situation. She summons Lao Meyer and instructs her to bring Dongwo, saying she wants to give him an appropriate reward. Lao Meyer wonders what kind of reward this could be, imagining the princess has something serious in mind. She tells Bingyi to wait while she fetches the boy. Meanwhile, Dama was busy drinking himself silly. The system advises him to start spending his points since he earned 120, but Dama curses at the system, refusing to spend anything. Looking at himself, he sees he is now a rank E demon. He's still relatively easy to kill, but the problem is figuring out where to find a human to do it. Suddenly, Lao Meyer arrives and informs him that Her Majesty is looking for the drunkard. However, Damo insists on testing something with her first. She asks why he's drunk so much, but before she can react, he pushes her aside, saying she's about to find out. He moves toward a fire and says he needs her help to die. She assumes he's asking her to kill him in some unconventional way, never imagining that this little guy could be so bold. She promptly knocks him unconscious, declaring that's not the right time because, as of today, he belongs to Her Majesty. Sometime later, Damo finds himself in front of Bingyi, who grants him the freedom to walk throughout the palace. Additionally, he is gifted the Slayer's Shet, which would allow him to become a true hero. Lao Meyer is stunned, realizing that Bingyi has just handed over the armor of a former demon Kane as a gift. Damo examines the set, full of rare items, and wonders why he's been given such an overpowered collection. Knowing she wouldn't accept that gift, Damo simply steps away, saying he's leaving. Bingyi, with her curvaceous figure, is startled that the boy doesn't seem impressed by it. However, as he's walking away, some individuals are watching him. An old man named Wei Ming is furious that Donald received the Demon King's set just for what he did that day. He says that such a reward should only be given to a demon who demonstrates power to the world, calling it irresponsible to do otherwise. Wei Ming seems to be an ally of the general on the throne, as he mentions that this act forces him to side with the man. At that moment, Donald approaches and calls out to the old man, who's already itching to kill this shameless brat who dares to push his luck. But instead, Damo stretches out his hand and says the set can stay with him. Wei Ming is shocked, asking why he would give it up. Damo simply tells him to keep it, explaining that he's trying to die and a set like this would only hinder his plans. He then adds that it was Her Majesty who asked him to hand it over as a token of appreciation for all Wei Ming had done for the city. Before Wei Ming can respond, Damo dashes off, waving goodbye. Wei Ming stands there, confused until he suddenly yells to the heavens, calling himself shameless for even considering betraying Her Majesty. Later, Damo is sitting on a staircase, realizing there's no one in this place willing to kill him. Then he hears someone nearby saying, the young master has finally returned. The person bows and informs him that the general has decided to begin operations tomorrow. Soldiers will be sent to propose a marriage between him and the princess, and anyone who opposes it will be killed immediately. This grabs Dawo's attention. If that's the case, it seems he'll only have to stay in this filthy place for one more day. The next day at the kingdom's conference hall, many people are engaged in conversation, but Damo finds it boring and wishes they get to the important part. Keinduko then addresses Her Highness, saying that for 3 years the humans have been retreating further and further, unable even to capture the city. Bingi responds, saying the general's actions are indeed impressive and he is responsible for many victories, deserving a reward. Ku then says that if Her Highness truly means what she says, he has a favorite ask. He summons his son, Woojin, and requests that she bless him with marriage. He mentions that they've grown up together all this time. Bingi, seemingly a bit slow in the uptake, notes that they haven't seen each other in 3 years and asks who Woojin wants to marry. That's when Hu explains that he wants her to marry Woojin. She is shocked, asking what he's talking about since they don't even like each other. The general, however, says that's irrelevant. For the first time in thousands of years, a woman is ruling the city of Yun, and rumors of the kingdom's weakening are spreading. If she ascends to the throne alone, things will only get worse. However, she could easily silence everyone by marrying Woojin. The people behind him nod, agreeing that it makes sense. Besides, young Master Woojin is very handsome and would be a perfect match. Lodi, however, is furious, calling a general disgusting for putting Her Majesty in such a position. Bingi seems torn, unsure of how to respond. Dongwu sees the opportunity he's been waiting for. He steps forward, prompting the old man to ask where he's going. Dongwu grabs Bingi's arm and says she shouldn't let threats dictate her decisions. Everyone has the right to make the choices that bring them the most happiness. Bingi, flustered, doesn't know how to respond. Dongwu then asks the others how they can shamelessly force something like this. That's when Wei Ming recognizes him as the same boy who gave up the armor yesterday. Bingi tries to apologize and says she won't accept the proposal. However, Hu interrupts, stating that he has worked tirelessly for this kingdom and all he asks for today is a reward. He advises her to think carefully about her decision. Lodi draws his bow and asks if the general is trying to force her to abdicate the throne this way. Wei Ming also steps in, warning the general to tread carefully. However, Huan declares that he holds all the military power in this place and asks if they're truly ready to start a war. Bingi lowers her head, asks everyone to stop, and says she agrees with the general's words. Dongwu, however, bursts out laughing. He says that as the rightful heir to the throne, Bingi has more claim to it than anyone else and should fight for it. He turns to Huo and asks why everyone is so afraid of him. The general approaches and asks who this child is. Dongwu spits in his face, calling him just a low-ranking general of the former demon king and questioning why he has so much military power. In the end, he's just a lackey, so it doesn't make sense for him to act so arrogantly. All this while patting the fool's face. To top it off, Dongwu declares that Bingi is not only the most formidable and powerful person in the kingdom, but also the most beautiful. So how could that strange son of his ever deserve her? The enraged general tells Dongwu to shut up and asks who in the world would be worthy of her, if not his son, who is a great soldier. The cheeky Dongwu claims that he is. After all, 2 days ago in the cave, they connected on a deep level. Dongwu is confident that the damned general will finally kill him now. Lodi looks devastated while Mei Wei mutters that she knew this would happen. The audience begins to whisper that during the Blue Yumin invasion, Dongwu was the first to stand up and fight against them. Meanwhile, Bingi is emotional, moved by how far Dongwu is willing to go for her. The general, however, asks if Dongwu truly wants to die that badly. Of course, Dongwu does, pointing at his neck and saying that if the general has the guts, he should just strike there. Otherwise, he'll lose his head, as Dongwu not only publicly humiliated him, but also tarnished the dignity of Her Majesty. For all these unforgivable offenses, the general declares that he will grant Dongwu's wish. Activating a powerful technique, his fist glows and everyone begins to flee. In an instant, he stretches his arm back and punches Dongwu straight in the chest. Wei Ming rushes forward, shouting that it's too late now, while Dongwu cheers, telling Hao Jingna to wait for him. He'll finally reunite with her. The entire area explodes. Flames rise as everyone watches in shock, but Woojin appears confused. Someone emerges from the chaos, and Woojin wonders how this is even possible. Dongwu had received a token from the Demon King's military order. Because of this token, he immediately jumped 40 levels and gained a passive ability. When his health drops below 30%, his defense increases fiffold. Worse yet, every 15 attacks he receives are reflected back, dealing critical damage. The onlookers whisper that such a token can only be granted by Her Majesty. As far as they know, only the Demon King himself could bestow such a blessing. It turns out Bingi was the one who gave Dongwu the token. She explains that her grandfather and father had entrusted the token to Huon because of his loyalty in life and death. However, now she decided to give it to Dongwu, granting him the right to become a general and lead part of the demon army. Huon doesn't look too impressed, assuming no one would dare betray him. He scans the room, waiting to see if anyone will challenge him. But Wei Ming steps forward and congratulates Dongwu, acknowledging him as the new general. Lodi decides to follow suit, reasoning that if Wei Ming supports him, it's best do the same. Soon, Huon's soldiers begin recognizing Dongwu as the new general. No one wanted to align with anyone other than the queen's supporters. This pleases everyone except Dongwu, who is frustrated by the turn of events. Left with no choice, Huon concedes, saying that since she entrusted the military order emblem to Dongwu, it proves she trusts him. However, he questions how such a weak soldier will command an entire army. To prove himself, Donwo will need to lead a team through the ancient demon cavern, a test of survival only for those deemed worthy by the kings of old. The elders shout at Huan, calling the test ridiculous, as no one has survived the cavern in the past 100 years. Bingby agrees, pointing out that the place is considered forbidden, as everyone who enters dies. But Donwo's eyes light up with excitement. A cave where no one has survived in 100 years? Perfect. The general laughs, calling them all cowards. Donwo raises his hand, agreeing with the general and asking where this ancient demon cavern is. He's ready to go now. His friends are wide-eyed in disbelief. 200 years ago, during the Great Crisis, the Demon King sacrificed himself to protect his people, sealing the last demonic element in the cavern for the next king to claim. However, no demon has managed to pass the test since then. Wyming explains that entering the cavern requires at least 2 people. Who else would dare go with Donwo? The soldiers murmur among themselves, wondering who's crazy enough to volunteer. The general declares that if Donwo wants to take the test, it's up to him to find a partner. That's when someone raises their hand. It's Wujin. His father slaps him across the face, demanding to know when he started making his own decisions. But Wujin calmly responds, asking if his father thinks he's inferior. The soldiers whisper that someone like Wujin, the future of their race, shouldn't risk himself. But Wujin insists that only one approved by the ancients can inherit the king's power, and if there's going to be a new demon king, it should be him. His father doesn't look pleased, but the decision is made. The next day, Duko approaches Wujin, congratulating him on the choice. He suggests that since Dongwu seems so weak, this could be an opportunity to kill him in the cavern. Out of nowhere, Wujin starts straightening his hair, saying he knows exactly what he's doing. Meanwhile, Meyer warns Donwo that Wujin is selfish and that he should be careful. But Donwo is thrilled, as Wujin's presence increases his chances of dying. Suddenly, Wyming arrives, addressing Donwo as general and presenting him with the best buff and healing potions in the kingdom. Donwo thanks him but is obviously unhappy about it. Soon, everyone gathers at the entrance to the ancient demon cavern. Donwo hands Wujin some potions. Meyer asks if they're ready, and Bingyi, standing strong and powerful, tells Donwo that he must survive. While Wujin stares ahead, declaring that the next demon king of this place is about to be born, the formation activates and the golden circle disappears, taking both of them with it. Inside the cavern, Donwo unlocks the mission Test of the Ancestors. Invisible rank D monsters are already observing them. Wujin comments that he can imagine the kinds of monsters that live in this place. Donwo remembers that Meyer warned him about Wujin being very treacherous, so he knows he needs to stay cautious. He spreads his arms wide, announcing that he's only wearing a white armor set, meaning his defense stats are extremely low. Confused, Wujin doesn't understand why Donwo is exposing himself like this when they don't even know who their enemies are. What Wujin doesn't know is that Donwo is eagerly waiting for him to stab him in the back. Wujin summons a red blade and Donwo grows excited, convinced that his moment has finally arrived. Suddenly someone yells "flower" as something flashes past Donwo. A creature appears, and in the next second, it's already been sliced in half. Donwo is confused by Wujin's incredible potential, but before he can react, the swarm of creatures begins attacking them. Wujin stretches out his arm and summons another flower. As the creatures close in, he releases a flurry of petals into the air. A sudden burst of energy from his hands creates countless slashes, shredding the creatures to pieces. Wujin remarks that it's impressive Donwo had already detected those soul bats. Using himself as bait to lure all the creatures and then taking them out in one fell swoop was a clever strategy. However, Wujin warns him not to think they are equals just because of something like that. Donwo readily agrees, saying he knows he's nowhere near Wujin's incredible level. Not one to be humble, Wujin responds with, "Of course." The scene shifts as Wujin unleashes Annihilation Slash and activates the blade of the flower. Donwo is left bewildered. His plan was to get stabbed in the back by this guy, but Wujin is so competitive that he's charging ahead, killing all the monsters instead. To make matters worse, since Wujin doesn't stop slaughtering the creatures, are all focused on him, leaving Donwo in no danger whatsoever. Still, Donwo is determined to eventually draw all the monsters' attention to himself. He realizes he has 408 points to spend and wonders if he could use them to help with this plan. Later, Wujin remarks that according to the map, they've reached the deepest part of the cavern. What strikes him as odd is that Donwo hasn't killed a single monster yet. Wujin doesn't want to believe it, but maybe Donwo really is just a weakling leeching off his experience. Suddenly, the ground begins to shake. The dungeon activates and a mission appears. Protect the Demon King's messengers. It's a high-difficulty mission with a 20-minute time limit. A horde of creatures emerges, surrounding them. Wujin's expression changes immediately. He activates his flower ability and throws it toward one of the creatures, but it effortlessly blocks the attack. The creature opens its arms and fires a laser into the sky, summoning a Miku that crashes down on Wujin. The explosion is massive, but Wujin survives. Before he can retreat, however, another attack comes from within the flames. Donwo, meanwhile, is thrilled. He's allocated all 480 points into strength, leaving his defense at the bare minimum. This way, with a single attack, he plans to draw every creature's focus onto himself. Wujin, struggling, convinces himself that Danwo is clearly incomparable to him in this universe. It's obvious now that Danwo is weak. Wujin unleashes his ultimate technique, causing a rain of thorns to fall upon the creatures. However, nothing happens. Standing before the largest creature, Wujin demands its death. The thorns embedded in the ground explode, but the monster remains almost completely intact, with 90% of its defenses still up. Wujin is at a loss. He's used his final technique, and the creature is essentially invulnerable. It retaliates by firing purple energy at him. As all the creatures converge, Wujin finds himself surrounded. Meanwhile, Dongwo casually strolls closer. He sneaks up behind the massive creature and prepares a surprise attack. He lands a powerful blow, creating a gaping hole in the creature's body. Instantly, every other monster turns its attention toward Dongwo, tossing Wujin aside and rushing at him. Dongwo is stunned by the sheer strength he now possesses. He never imagined that 480 points in strength would be so effective. Wujin, on the other hand, is baffled, concluding that the monster must have a weak spot on its back. It finally makes sense to him. Dongwo hadn't been attacking because he noticed this from the beginning and was deliberately creating the perfect opportunity. Now surrounded by monsters, Dongwo receives a system notification. You draw the attention of all creatures. Standing confidently with his arms crossed, Dongwo grins. His strategy has finally worked and he's become the monster's sole target. One of the Ranka creatures leaps at him and Dongwo is certain it will finish him off. He gestures with his finger, taunting it to come at him and opens his arms wide in celebration. Finally, he's going to become human again. But just as the monster is about to strike, a flower appears from behind him. Wujin activates the piercing petal shift. Wujin manages to cut down the creature, leaving Dongwo stunned as the remains fall to the ground. Only 3 messengers remained. While Dongwo feels desolate, Wujin comments that he liked Dongwo's strategy of drawing the enemy's attention. With Wujin having just dealt significant damage, the creatures turn their focus back to him. Dongwo, tearing his hair out, wonders what this guy is talking about. He had worked so hard to become the target of all the monsters. Wujin runs off and Dongwo chases after him, shouting that there's no way he's letting this guy die now. Dongwo punches another creature, creating a massive crater in the ground. He spreads his arms wide and declares that the buff is now with him. Sticking his tongue out at the creatures, he taunts them to attack, proudly proclaiming himself as the perfect target. Standing still with a smug smile, he waits. But of course, Wujin attacks from behind again. The creature shifts its focus and Dongwo yells at it not to flee. Unfortunately, his next punch lands, completely depleting the creature's health bar. Now only 1 messenger remains. Dongwo rushes toward it, pleading, "For the love of God, hit me already." The creature raises its blade, aiming it at him. Dongwo smiles, ready to finally meet his end. But before the attack can land, another peal strikes from behind, slicing the creature apart. The remains fall to the ground and all enemies have been defeated. Wujin compliments Dongwo, saying his combat instincts are truly remarkable. He admits he didn't expect them to work together so efficiently. However, Dongwo is furious. He never wanted teamwork in the first place. Wujin, trying to be gracious, admits he doesn't usually say things like this, but he acknowledges that Dongwo is strong, worthy, even, to compete for the greatest glory in the world alongside him. Suddenly, the ground begins to tremble. Electricity crackles from the floor as a voice echoes, announcing that it has been centuries since anyone dared to enter this cavern. The voice says it thought no new prodigy would have the courage to challenge for the title of Demon King. A flash of light blinds them both, and a massive blue dragon appears, congratulating them for passing the test. But the dragon declares that the real challenge begins now. Only one of them can leave the cavern alive. They have 10 minutes to fight to the death, and the survivor will inherit the title of Demon King. If they refuse, both will die by the dragon's hand. Wujin is visibly shaken, demanding to know why they must fight each other to the death. He hesitates, uncertain. Even as the future of the demon race, he can't gauge Dongwo's true strength. Meanwhile, Dongwo is overjoyed, shouting that God has given him a gift. Finally, the perfect opportunity to die has arrived. Wujin, seeing Dongwo stripping off his shirt, assumes his opponent is incredibly determined and resolves not to lose. While Wujin prepares for battle, Dongwo continues undressing, losing 50 defense points as he discards his armor. Standing in nothing but shorts and his dimensional backpack, Dongwo yells at Wujin to hurry up and strike him in the chest to claim the Demon King's title. "Just hit me already?" Dongwo urges, "One attack and you'll become the strongest of our generation." But Wujin grows suspicious. Why would Dongwo agree to come to this place and now, just a step away from claiming the title, want to give up? It doesn't add up. Dongwo, frustrated, mutters to himself about how stubborn this guy is, shouting again for Wujin to take the reward already. Wujin places his blade at Dongwo's neck and says, "You've earned the trust of Her Majesty, military power, and extraordinary strength. Even with normal attacks, you in taking out Ranka plus demons. If we fought seriously, I might not even win. So why are you trying to surrender?" Dongwo replies that the city of Yun needs the Hue family. General Hue has followed the king's orders for years and sacrificed everything for this place. He's the true hero of the land, while Dongwo is just a lucky kid whose life doesn't compare to that of a general and his prodigy son. For the good of the demon race, Dongwo insists he needs to die here. Wujin lowers his head, recalling his mother's words that he should grow up to be a boy with a heart of gold. He realizes that the demon race will only truly become strong if they unite. Deactivating his blade, Wujin admits he has been humiliated. The boy before him, willing to sacrifice himself for the demon race, is the true heart of gold. Meanwhile, Wujin had entered this cavern intent on killing Dongwu from behind. It's difficult to admit, but he had prioritized the title of Demon King over the good of the demon race. The dragon interrupts, reminding them they have only 8 minutes left before both will die. Dongwu starts screaming, demanding to know why Wujin hasn't killed him yet. Wujin calmly says, "The Demon King said we'd both die in 10 minutes. So in the meantime, I want to try something different." Wujin brings his hands together, channeling energy into a massive dispersing blossom technique. The energy begins to expand, enveloping the cavern as the dragon watches. A sudden explosion consumes the entire cavern. The dragon roars, demanding to know how they dare attempt to break through the barrier. It's only been 8 minutes. Wujin, now in an exalted state, has advanced from rank A to rank A+. He turns to Dongwu, asking what he thinks about teaming up to defeat the dragon. But Dongwu bursts out laughing, declaring they're overestimating themselves. Wujin stands confidently, declaring that he now feels complete with power. The guy activated another boost, quadrupling his strength and doubling several other attributes. Dongwu, watching from a distance, mutters that this is going to be a problem. It's becoming increasingly complicated for him to die. Wujin charges at the boss, activating an illusion technique. The boss, however, fires a laser straight at his head, seemingly evaporating him. But wait, no. It was only an illusion, and Wujin appears from behind, dealing 150 damage. Unfortunately, the boss has 99,000 HP. Undeterred, Wujin clings to the ceiling, boasting about his resilience before launching another attack. A laser comes his way, but he dodges and unleashes a flurry of slashes. The problem is, each attack only does 220 or 100 damage, barely making a dent in the boss's massive HP pool. Despite the meager damage, Wujin successfully draws the Demon King's attention. Suddenly, a thick cloud of smoke surrounds Wujin. He looks around in confusion before being struck in the face by the boss's tail. The impact sends him flying and he lands right next to Dongwu. Dongwu is now terrified. If Wujin dies, he might end up inheriting the title of Demon King. The massive dragon lifts its head, preparing an attack. The blast hits Dongwu square in the chest. He's bombarded with attacks while Wujin just stands there watching. Dongwu's HP drops to 1,400 and falls to his knees. Wujin, furious, is moved by how heroic Dongwu is, blocking what would have been a fatal attack meant for him. Wujin pulls a potion out of his pocket, which restores 10,000 HP, and immediately tosses it at Dongwu. Dongwu looks at his HP bar and turns to curse Wujin, but it's too late. Wujin is already preparing resistance and regeneration potions. A barrage of potions rains down on Dongwu, boosting all his attributes. Reluctantly, Dongwu thanks him while standing, now fully buffed. But Wujin wastes no time, charging at the boss with laser-like speed. Wujin closes in on the boss's face, clenching his fist, which glows with green energy. Teleporting from below to above, Wujin lands a series of blows. However, the boss manages to paralyze him with a technique, leaving Wujin open for an attack. Just as the boss is about to strike, Dongwu rushes in from behind. Throwing himself in front of Wujin, he declares, "I'll block this." He takes another laser straight to the stomach. His HP starts dropping and he's thrilled until Wujin throws another potion at him, healing 5,000 HP. Dongwu, furious, yells at Wujin to stop tossing potions, but Wujin just smiles and says, "Don't worry, I'll always have your back, my friend." Together, they continue fighting the Demon King in the cavern until the boss's HP bar finally drops to half. Wujin, crouching, remarks that at this rate, he might actually win. However, the system warns them that reaching half HP has triggered the boss's passive ability, Lake's Return, a rank SS skill that regenerates 100,000 HP per minute. Wujin, stunned, exclaims that this makes no sense. Even if they attack non-stop, they wouldn't be able to outpace the regeneration. The boss taunts them, saying they're far too weak, and it's laughable that they believe they could kill a god. With a deafening roar, the boss inflicts massive damage on both of them. The roar applies numerous debuffs, including poison, which causes their health to steadily decline. Both warriors collapse to the ground. Dongwu is nearly face down, while Wujin activates a one-time survival skill that saves him from death. He struggles to stand, but their potions are completely depleted. The boss raises its head, preparing a final attack. Both fighters know they've lost, but Dongwu says they haven't lost just yet. He explains that as long as he dies, Wujin can complete the challenge. Placing a hand on Wujin's shoulder, Dongwu tells him to claim the title of Demon King. Wujin, confused, asks what he's talking about. As the dragon unleashes its final attack, Dongwu grabs Wujin by the collar and hurls him away, shouting, "For the future of the demons." Wujin, midair, watches helplessly as Dongwu stands his ground. For a moment, Dongwu thinks that for a demon, Wujin isn't all that bad. As the attack engulfs him, Dongwu is vaporized. Sometime later, a golden light descends from the heavens, shining upon Wujin. The dragon congratulates him for passing the ancestors' test. It explains that in the past, the ancestors sacrificed their lives to protect the demon race. The Great King sealed the most precious ability within the demon cavern, awaiting someone worthy to claim it. For over 200 years, every demon who passed the test ended up fighting each other, killing themselves in the process. A demon who murders another is not qualified to hold the title of king. Only Wujin and Dongwo, who supported each other until the end, have truly faced the challenge together. Wujin earns recognition as a strong man worthy of the Demon King's legacy. The dragon explains that the Demon King's successor must have the courage to protect others without fear of death. Naturally, Dongwo is posthumously granted the title of king recognized by the ancestors. He earns 5 million experience points, levels up 10 times, and unlocks an SSS skill that regenerates 100,000 HP per minute. Dongwo also gains the title Demon King, granting numerous additional attributes and making him undetectable. The scene shifts to the outside world, where the onlookers are in shock. Word spreads that the demon cavern has been cleared. Doble remarks that the prophecy might actually come true. This generation could witness the rise of a demon king who will reunite the demon clans. Bingdi, emotional, notes that the last true demon king was Li Yun, one of the greatest demons to have ever lived. A true king only appears once every few centuries. They possess an aura that sets them apart from any other demon. Huan stands confidently declaring that he always believed his son would be the pride of the heavens. It was natural, he thought, that his son would receive the title of king. However, Wai Ming interrupts, saying it wasn't your son who became king. It was General Dongwo. The crowd's eyes widen in disbelief. Meanwhile, Dongwo is in a quiet corner talking to a demoness. He's asking for more drinks, but she refuses, saying he's too young for that. Dongwo looks desolate. With his new ability to regenerate 100,000 HP per minute, dying has become impossible. He laments, saying there's no way he can return to his own world now. Hao Lin, the person he dreamed of being with, was left in the past. As he wallows, someone is watching him from the shadows. Dongwo notices, turning to look, the figure disappears. The scene shifts to reveal a green-haired girl sneaking another glance at him. The next moment, Dongwo appears right behind her, asking why the brat is following him. Startled, she falls back, tears in her eyes, insisting that he isn't scary and she's not afraid. The child introduces herself as Tan Jiao, a rank D nuclear demon. Dongwo, unfazed, demands to know why she's following him. She stands and nervously explains that she wants him to accompany her to Balin Cavern. Before Dongwo can respond, another person approaches and Tianjiao explains her situation. She had received the chance to make 3 wishes, but she needed to go to Balin Cavern to claim them. The child reveals that she wants to enter the cavern, but isn't allowed because she hasn't fully transformed into an adult demon. Out of nowhere, an old beggar yells in Dongwo's ear, warning that it's clearly a scam. Who would believe something like that? The beggar says. But Dongwo, curious, asks Tianjiao if this wish thing is real. He recalls hearing about a fountain of wishes in the demon world and is eager to find one himself. Tianjiao reassures him, explaining that she had to pass countless tests and spend 50,000 to earn this opportunity. The beggar scoffs, telling them both to stop falling for such obvious tricks. But Tianjiao suddenly gets emotional, revealing that this is her last chance. She worked tirelessly at the Bailing Club to earn that money because her mother's heart is failing, and she has only 1 month to live. She's desperate to save her. The beggar mutters that only an idiot would go with her, but Dongwo surprises him by agreeing on one condition. She must give him one of her wishes. I'll either wish to reincarnate as a human or to lose all these overpowered abilities, he declares. Chang Xiao, overjoyed, agrees to give him 2 wishes if he helps her. Frustrated, the beggar walks away, muttering that these 2 lunatics deserve each other. As he leaves, the beggar recalls that Balin Cavern is rumored to house a black market group that's been very active recently. The scene shifts to Dongwo and Tianjiao standing before the cavern's gate. Dongwo presents the invitation and completes the scan, allowing the door to open. As they proceed through the corridor, someone remarks, "The fish took the bait." In another room, a demon orders the door sealed, trapping them inside. A blue-horned demon warns, don't hit them too hard or they might die. Suddenly, doors begin to descend in front of Dongwo and Tianjiao. A figure with a sparking hand appears behind them and leaps forward to punch. Tianjiao warns Dongwo to be careful. The punch lands squarely on Dongwo, but his passive ability activates, negating all damage. He doesn't even flinch. Casually, Dongwo asks if this is the famed Bailing Cavern. The attacker is taken aback, finding Dongwo's calm demeanor unnerving. The protagonist remarks that he's here to collect wishes, only to notice a dangerous-looking woman in the background. Dongwo starts to question whether they've come to the wrong place. The blue-horned demon laughs, mocking his naivety for believing in such childish fairy tales. They reveal their true identity as the largest human trafficking group in the Yun Dominion. Their ruse about granting wishes was just a trap to lure victims into the cavern, where they could be captured and sold. If you obey, the demon sneers, you might leave here with all your limbs intact. So be a good dog and understand your situation. One demon slaps Dongwo across the face, commanding him to submit. But before anyone can process what's happening, the demon is sent flying by a casual punch from Dongwo, embedding him into the ceiling. Dongwo sighs, asking, how many times is this going to happen? Ever since I reincarnated, it's been one disappointment after another. Realizing Dongwoo's strength, the demons ready themselves for a fight, declaring, "This kid is dangerous." Suddenly, machinery activates, and the demons equip themselves with advanced combat gear resembling Power Rangers in rank B plus armor. One of them yells, "Show him the true danger of this world." Three demons leap toward Dongwo, shouting that they'll finish him off. Meanwhile, Dongwo, having drunk too much earlier, is getting a little emotional. Dongwo mutters that life has been very hard lately. Every time he gets close to success, he fails. At this moment, he feels truly frustrated and angry. He punches the ground, declaring he's tired of it all. The impact creates a massive shockwave, throwing everyone across the room and shattering their armor. Meanwhile, Dongwo is crying his heart out. The demons are now kneeling, begging for forgiveness and asking to be allowed to leave. One of them confesses that they were forced into this situation and didn't enjoy doing such things. Hearing this, Dongwo demands to know who the powerful people behind this operation are. The demon pinned under his foot reveals that the most powerful person in the Yun Dominion is behind them. He claims that once the general arrives, Dongwo will surely be dead. Dongwo wonders who this leader could be. Suddenly, an immense energy starts emanating from the door. The demon under his foot begins to celebrate, shouting, "The general is here. You're finished." Dongwo turns around to see a figure standing at the door, asking, "Are you the one causing all this trouble?" The leader of the group steps forward. Dongwo squints and quips, "Why does it look like Duko's chubby cousin is leading these idiots?" A servant yells at Dongwo to hold his tongue to show respect, asking if he doesn't know who he's speaking to. The leader introduces himself as Dupang, confirming that he is in fact Yuko's brother. Dupang scolds his subordinates, saying, "You useless fools. Letting my name slip like that was unacceptable." The servant grovels, insisting he would never intentionally reveal such information, but Dupang dismisses him, muttering about incompetence. He then approaches Dongwo, declaring that he knows too much and must die. Dongwo, unfazed, remarks that Dupang looks strong and that he's excited to see what he's capable of. With a smirk, he tells Dupang, "I'll give you 10 minutes to try to kill me. If you can't, I won't be so merciful." The surrounding demons are confused by Dongwo's boldness, and Dupang scowls, questioning what nonsense is this about 10 minutes? Preparing his fist, he boasts that he'll have Dongwo's head on the ground in 1 second. The servant cheers, claiming this is the general's strongest attack. Dupang pulls back his fist and lands a full-force punch on Dongwo, dealing 500 damage. But within seconds, Dongwo heals 800 HP from his passive regeneration. Dupang is baffled as Dongwo stands there with a full health bar, grinning. "That didn't seem to work." Dongwo teases, "Maybe try a special move." Furious, Dupang mutters that he didn't expect this loser to have any abilities. Dongwo encourages him to stop wasting time, reminding him that the 10 minutes are ticking. Dupang, now enraged, launches into a combo of punches, landing 8 consecutive hits on Dongwo's face. The boy's body is briefly knocked to the ground, but his health bar remains intact. Exhausted, Dupang pauses, trying to catch his breath. Dongwo, lying on the floor, looks up and sarcastically asks, "Why'd you stop? Getting tired already?" His taunts infuriate Dupang further, and the general leaps into the air, preparing a meteor strike. The attack hits Dongwo directly, but it activates his counterattack passive ability. With a massive shockwave, Dupang is sent flying, taking 2,800 damage to the face. Staggering back, he stares at Dongwo in disbelief, trying to comprehend what's happening. The servant finally realizes who Dongwo is, whispering, "That's the pervert who caused trouble at the castle. He went to the ancestral cavern. How is he alive?" Dupang wipes his face and sneers, declaring he now remembers Dongwo. "You're nothing but a filthy demon who only got this far by relying on women. I, on the other hand, am an A-class demon with 2 demon hearts, the future commander of this clan." As Dupang boasts, a set of A-class equipment descends from above, equipping Dongwo automatically. The boy cheers, now powered up, and taunts Dupang to come at him again. Dupang raises his hand to the sky, summoning his strength, and charges at Dongwo. His punches land repeatedly, dealing 40 to 50 damage per hit. However, the damage numbers are far too low compared to Dongwo's passive regeneration. Then, as Dongwo's passive counterattacks activate multiple times, Dupang is curled across the room, taking 3,000, 2,000, and 10,000 damage. His HP bar rapidly depletes until a final hit of 8,400 leaves him nearly defeated. Falling to the ground, the servant cries out for the general, who collapses like a sack of potatoes. Dupang's own survival passive activates, sparing his life once, but he's left disoriented. Struggling to his feet, Dupang demands, "Why are you still standing there with a full health bar?" Dongwo smirks and replies, "Because your 10 minutes are up. Is that all you've got?" Dupang drops to his knees, pleading for forgiveness. "Please don't hurt me," he begs. "I'll give you anything you want." Dongwo calmly states, "The only thing I want is someone who can kill me." Dupang looks at him in horror, whispering, "That's impossible. No one deserves something like that. Who are you?" Before Dongwo can answer, someone at the doorway calls out for the general. It's Duko, who steps in and coldly observes the scene. The servant begs Duko to save his brother, but Duko replies he brought this upon himself. If Dongwo wants to kill him, so be it. Duko apologizes, saying it was his mistake for letting this situation escalate. Dongwo dismisses him, replying, "Whatever, I don't even care about that chubby guy's life," as he kicks a pebble and mutters about how weak everyone is. But suddenly, he stops, remembering something. Turning around, he asks, "Duping, did you really say you'd give me anything I want?" He approaches, narrowing his eyes, and asks if it's true that Duping has two demon hearts. Duping, panicked, denies it, calling it absurd and claiming he'd never have such a thing. A scene shifts to a hospital, where Duping is stretched out on a gurney, begging his brother Duko for help, but the doctors prepare the anesthesia, reassuring him, "Don't worry, with two hearts, you won't miss one." Outside the hospital, Tanjiro thanks Dongwo profusely, saying that without him, her mother would have died. But Dongwo is distracted, impatiently asking when his wish will come true and wondering what Howlin is doing at this moment. Meanwhile, Dukao is discussing with his subordinate about the energy reserves of the Demon Kingdom. Dukao emphasizes the importance of this energy. It's the only way the Yun Dominion can defend itself against the humans who are already advancing. The scene cuts to a fleet of spaceships soaring over a base. A blonde commander raises his hand, ordering the troops to prepare. In another part of the base, someone behind a curtain mentions they're doing this for Xiafeng. Dongwo, still lamenting his fate, suddenly recalls why he misses that girl so much. She had potential, and it seems she genuinely liked him. Xiafeng is shown muttering that although Dongwo's body isn't with her, she feels certain they'll meet again soon. Dongwo, however, cynically imagines that she's probably already with another guy raising 5 kids while he's destined to be a loser. At that moment, a group of bandits ambushes him, causing 100 damage. Dongwo screams at them, "Didn't you eat properly? Just cut my head off already." The bandits, confused, mutter about what kind of lunatic they're dealing with. Meanwhile, Dongwo, disheartened, wonders why no one can manage to kill him. Suddenly, Dongwo wakes up, shouting for someone to kill him. He shakes his head, muttering that he's been dreaming too much lately. Meyer enters, welcoming him back and informing him that Her Majesty has called emergency military meeting. Dongwo Sograbi follows her as the scene shifts to the meeting. Bingbi informs the generals that an immense human army is approaching their city. The attack will arrive sooner than expected and consists of over 10,000 soldiers. She explains that this is why she summoned the most important generals of Yun to discuss strategy. The last time they faced a battle of this scale was 10 years ago, and they barely survived. Huon recalls how they managed to survive that attack by employing guerrilla tactics and assassinating the human leader. That was the only reason the Yun Dominion still exists. However, he reminds everyone that the previous attack involved 5,000 soldiers, and the demons barely made out alive. Now they're up against double that number. While the strength of the demons hasn't grown, they must somehow endure. Their only option is to buy time until reinforcements can arrive. Turning to Dongwo, Huon asked for his opinion on this matter. Dongwo, however, is only half listening, his mind racing. He calculates that if 1,000 soldiers could deal 100 damage per minute, he might finally take more damage than his passive can heal. In other words, being surrounded by this massive army might finally allow him to die. He pounds the table, declaring, "One excellent opportunity." Rising from his chair, he insists they take the fight to the humans, meeting them face to face outside the city walls. The room falls silent, stunned by his suggestion. Even Huon slams the table, accusing Dongwo of recklessness. This is a life or death moment for the Yun Dominion. How can you speak so carelessly? Dongwo retorts that if they barely survived against 5,000 soldiers, it's ridiculous to think the same strategy will work against a double force. The worst thing we can do is sit here, waiting for reinforcements, he says. What will you do when, in a few years, they return with 20,000 soldiers? Who will you trust for the kingdom's future then? He challenges the room, asking, why doesn't anyone here have the courage to take control of their own future? And what's this nonsense about the demons not growing stronger? Have you all forgotten who I am? I am the greatest enhancement to our military strength. Bingyi, visibly emotional, listens intently as murmurs spread among the generals, commenting that this is the first time they're hearing a true demon king speak. But Huon interrupts, accusing Dongwo of recklessly sending thousands of demons to their deaths. He adds that Dongwo has never been on a battlefield and has no idea how cruel it is. Dongwo counters, questioning whether Huon really believes victory will come without risk. He mocks the idea of relying on outdated guerrilla tactics and calls out Huon's defeatist mindset. Do you really think you can win with that attitude, he asks. How can any soldier forget the most important thing on the battlefield, the spirit of victory? To prove his commitment, Dongwo makes a bold declaration. If we lose this battle, you have my permission to execute you publicly in front of everyone. The old man is visibly emotional, while the others simply stare in stunned silence. Wujin, however, smiles, commenting he really knows how to inspire people. Bingyi stands, declaring, I understand now. In this war, General Dongwo will receive all our troops and have full command. Instead of standing idle, we will open the gates and meet the enemy head-on. Sometime later, in military camp inside one of the tents, Huon addresses his subordinates. He reminds them of the countless battles they fought against the human army. But this time, the humans aren't just more numerous, they're also far stronger. He admits they don't stand a chance of winning and refuses to let the soldiers who have followed him for decades throw their lives away. Taking a moment to gather his thoughts, he raises his voice, commanding his officers. When we're called to the battlefield, this time stay in the city. Do not follow Dongwu's orders. If Her Majesty blames anyone, I will take full responsibility. A few days later, the 21st Legion of the Sacred Territory reaches the Yun Dominion. Through binoculars, a human officer observes the city and remarks, "The fall of Yun City is finally upon us." Turning to his subordinate, he orders them to begin the circus. The directive is clear. No demon is to be spared this time. Missiles are fired at the city walls. Guards on the ramparts spot them and begin casting electrical magic to intercept the projectiles. For a moment, it looks like the missiles are exploding harmlessly midair. However, they continue advancing through the magical defenses. One of the demon guards is obliterated almost immediately. Meanwhile, Dongwu watches from the wall, grinning. "They finally arrived," he says. From within the smoke, a horde of robots begins marching toward the city. As the attack commences, Huan approaches Dongwu. Turning to his men, Huan reminds them of the plan they discussed. However, even though his officers seem uncertain which general they should follow, Dongwu notices the hesitation and shouts, commanding everyone to stay within the city walls. His voice carries authority, and his words leave everyone wide-eyed in confusion. This battle, Dongwu declares, belongs solely to the king. Without hesitation, he leaps off the wall, landing directly in front of the advancing human army. The human soldiers stop, bewildered by the lone demon standing against them. Lu Renjia, a human mage leading the forces, watches from a distance and frowns. "Why did he come alone?" he asks, suspicious. "There are still many demons stationed on the walls," so Renjia wonders if this is some kind of trap. Meanwhile, the demon army remains perplexed, unsure why Dongwu gave such a reckless order. Huan, watching from the wall, is convinced Dongwu has lost his mind. "There are tens of thousands of humans out there," he mutters. How does he plan to face them alone? Standing boldly in front of the human army, Dongwu smirks. "I've heard humans are quite strong," he says, beginning to remove his armor piece by piece. "Are you going to attack, or are you all too scared?" The humans remain silent, confused by his audacity. Turning to Lu Renjia, Dongwu taunts, "In the past, I commanded you, didn't I? Don't disappoint me now." Renjia, visibly annoying, scowls. Dongwu knows Renjia hates being embarrassed and continues his provocations. Turning his back to the army, he adds, "Oh, I have an itch. Anyone care to scratch it?" This proves too much for Renjia, who snaps, shouting, "How dare this bastard mock me? Kill him." He orders the entire army to attack. Arrows, bullets, and energy blasts rain down on Dongwu. He grins, thrilled that they've begun to attack in earnest. Even Renjia draws his sword, slashing for 150 damage. But Dongwu remains standing, seemingly unaffected by the onslaught. Despite never investing points in defense, his high level grants him a natural resilience that negates most of the attacks. He calculates quickly. To overcome his regeneration, the army would need to deal 1,666 damage per second. They're nowhere near that. Frustrated, Dongwu shouts at the soldiers, "What's wrong with you people? Attack properly already." The human soldiers freeze, unsure of what to make of him. Renjia orders the second unit to join the assault. More robots arrive, including a massive one equipped with a laser cannon. The cannon charges and fires a concentrated beam straight into Dongwu's chest. Dongwu laughs, encouraging them to keep it up. "Come on, hit me harder." From the walls, Huan watches in disbelief. He begins to wonder if Dongwu's confidence wasn't misplaced after all. Could it be that from the very beginning, he truly believed he could win alone? Meanwhile, Dongwu is taking 50 hits per second and finally starts celebrating. Watching his health bar drop, he exclaims, "It's been so long since I've seen this beautiful red color." But then his passive counterattack activates. One of the reflected attacks strikes his soldier directly in the chest, killing him instantly. The soldiers panic, trying to figure out what just happened. An injured officer, gasping for breath, warns, "This demon isn't normal." Before he can finish his sentence, Dongwu's counterattack triggers again, killing another soldier. Renjia starts to piece things together. "Something's wrong. This must be part of his plan," he mutters. He orders the entire army to cease their attack immediately. Renjia recalls a legend the general once told him of an SSS-ranked demon king, a being with immense resilience who was able to restore the demon race while he lived. According to history, this creature should have died long ago. Renjia stares at Dongwu, baffled. If that demon king is long dead, then who is this guy? Dongwu continues yelling at the soldiers, demanding why they stop attacking when they have an army of over 10,000 men. However, the soldiers are only muttering among themselves, commenting that his health has already fully recovered. Renjia commands his troops, "Don't fall for his provocations, something is clearly off when attacking this guy." He then states that their mission was merely to draw out the strongest member of the demon army, and they already achieved that. "Everyone, retreat," Renjia orders. "Minimize the casualties." With that, Dongwu is left standing alone. On the wall, Meyer questions why the humans are retreating. She calls for the Imperial Guard and orders them to advance alongside her. Wujin, standing beside her, commands the entire demon army to follow him. Dongwu hears something behind him and, turning around, sees the entire demon army charging forward. Renjia, seeing this, mutters in disbelief, "Why are those lunatics attacking now when we're trying to retreat?" To make matters worse, the humans' abilities are still on cooldown. The demon army advances, shouting that anyone who dares step into their territory must be punished. Meanwhile, Huan finally admits to himself that he's getting too old. He hadn't realized how dependable Dongwo truly was, someone who truly deserves the title of king. He addresses his troops and declares, "Listen to me. From now on, follow General Dongwo's orders." This time, will ensure these insects never return. The soldiers salute, raising their weapons, and begin to advance. But then someone behind Huan yells, "This is bad." Huan turns around and the soldier informs him that the human army has deceived them. This attack was just a distraction. They've already infiltrated the city. The soldiers stationed at the eastern gate have been completely wiped out, and within the city of Yun, a massacre is underway. The scene shifts to chaos. Humans are stomping on Dongwo's green-haired friend, while the chubby demon has already been beheaded. Shocked, Huan asks, "How is this possible?" The humans are carrying the chubby demon's severed head through the streets. One of the invaders marches toward the castle, declaring that demons are useless. Inside the city, only Wei Ming and Bingi remain standing. Bingi remarks, "This human is incredibly strong." Wei Ming urges her to flee, while he tries to buy some time. The blonde human merely smirks and states, "Your kingdom has already been completely destroyed. Now it's time to play." Suddenly, a fireball comes flying from behind and strikes the humans dead on. Calmly, the blonde man turns around as his comrades desperately try to use potions to recover. It's Huan who has arrived and declares, "You're all despicable." The blonde man grins. Finally, a demon who looks decent, he says. Standing up, he stretches and remarks, "Time for some exercise." The demons quickly notice a purple aura surrounding him, realizing that compared to the other humans, this one is incredibly powerful. Huan knows he must end this quickly. A lightning bolt descends from the heavens, striking the blonde man's head. In an instant, the man transforms into a dragon. This is Berserker mode, a state that increases power by 130% and health by 500%. Elsewhere in the city, the battle rages on. Dongwu sits despondent. All he wanted was for someone to attack him and finally end his life. Ever since reincarnating into this body, it feels like all he gets are hacks and overpowered abilities. No matter how hard he tries, dying seems impossible. Laughing and crying at the same time, Dongwu looks up at the sky and yells, "What do you want from me? Do you really want me to become the Demon King?" At that moment, a lightning bolt crashes down from the sky, striking Huan. Dongwu rushes to the scene, stunned to find everyone dead. He asks himself why demons and humans are fighting in the middle of the city. Then he hears a voice begging for someone to spare his daughter. Looking to the side, Dongwu sees a soldier taunting a man, saying they'll take his daughter and there's nothing he can do to stop them. One of the soldiers wearing a hat mocks the father, telling him they're going to have a lot of fun with his daughter. The father, lying on the ground, screams for them to let her go. In response, one of the soldiers stabs the man's hand and sneers. In the end, the victor becomes king. But before he can finish, he's kicked in the face and dragged across the ground. Dongwu watches, realizing something is deeply wrong. The soldier in the hat notices him and mutters, "Why is there still a demon alive?" They drop the girl and charge toward Dongwu, shouting that they need to finish him off. As they approach, Dongwu reflects that war is a cruel place where the victors take everything. However, he's already forbidden humanity from engaging in this kind of behavior. He delivers a devastating punch to one of the soldiers, sending him crashing to the ground and nearly dead. Dongwu pins him by the neck, and the man, gasping, wonders how he lost all his HP from a single punch. "What kind of nonsense is this naked demon?" he whispers. Dongwu demands, "What legion and squad you belong to?" The soldier reveals that they are from the 21st Legion, 511th Squad. Dongwu freezes in shock. That was his old legion. The other soldiers start running, shouting that this demon is weird. Dongwu, still trying to understand what's happening, glances to the side and sees one soldier dead, while another is being finished off on the ground. Surveying the destruction around him, Dongwu mutters, "I've been here before." Explosions continue to rock the city, with bombs obliterating buildings left and right. The situation in Yun is starting to make sense to him. Suddenly, he hears someone say, "Mom was tortured to death." A father tries to calm his daughter, saying, "At least we still have each other." From above, lightning continues to strike, illuminating the chaos below. Dongwu stands in the rain, watching as the dragon descends. At that moment, his memories begin to return. 6 years ago, he had led an attack on a kingdom called Yun, and the last creature he defeated was this very demon dragon. The problem was that the victory had been so easy he'd nearly forgotten all about it. Now Dongwu recalls the system and the words it had spoken about reincarnation. It wasn't just that he had been revived, he had been sent back 6 years into the past. This revelation leads him to question, who is leading this army? What happened? And where is his original body? In the skies, Jin Me, the beloved princess of the healthy humans, observes the unfolding chaos. She remarks that the hatred between the races is flaring up again. Noting that Dongwu was always the only one who stood apart, she reflects that war is only necessary when it's for protection, but humanity had been using it to spread unparalleled brutality throughout the world. Meanwhile, Dongwu continues walking through the ruins of the city, trying to make sense of it all. As far as he remembers, the 511th Squad have strong convictions and discipline. When they defeated the demon dragon, they had even liberated the other demons. Elsewhere in the city, a man steps on Tam Xiao. She cries out for her mother, who tells her not to worry and urges her to run away. But then a blue flame ignites within Tang Xiao, and she seems to lose consciousness. Bao Lai, one of the captains of the 511th Squad, observes this with amusement, commenting on how much charm this demon woman possesses. Witnessing this, Dongwu declares that something truly unforgivable has just occurred. The scene shifts to a door. Inside, people are celebrating, saying that the lady of the house has given birth to a healthy boy. Hyun opens the door and asks where his son is, while the demons outside remark that they've never seen him so happy. Hyun picks up what appears to be the baby, cradling him gently. He promises to take care of the child so that he will grow up strong and protect the kingdom of Yun. Back in the present, a golden lightning bolt cuts through the skies, striking a dragon. Despite this, Hyun defiantly declares that he will never allow scum like them to destroy the kingdom of Yun. A human warrior opposing him, however, seems unfazed. Calmly, he remarks, "For a dragon, you have quite the long health bar, but it's time to end this." He leaps toward Huan, delivering a direct attack to the dragon's head. Golden slashes carve through the air, and it becomes clear that Huan cannot withstand this assault. The human lands with a confident swagger, one hand still in his pocket. Huan reverts from his dragon form, realizing that this human had been toying with him from the start. With his current strength, no one here could stand a chance against him. The human warrior coldly remarks that he still isn't satisfied. Raising his sword, he prepares to finish Huan. But just as he strikes, someone blocks the attack. Confused, the human looks up as the demons glance behind them in shock. At first, Damo appears to have intervened, but no, it's Wujin, who's arrived to protect his father. Wujin declares that he is here to kill this intruder. Huan, however, scolds Wujin, telling him to stop being foolish and understand that he doesn't stand a chance against this opponent. But Wujin responds, asking, "Is that really all you think of me? Do I truly mean so little to you?" Wujin recalls a moment from his past when a demon asked him who he admired most. His answer was immediate: the general who led the armies into battle. That man was number one. He also remembers showing his father a report card, proudly stating that he had achieved the highest score in military aptitude. But Huan, seemingly uninterested, simply said, "I see," and dismissed it. Feeling disheartened, Wujin left the room. Later, as a young man, he returned to his father and announced that he had ranked first in the army's entrance exams. But again, Huan merely replied, "I went through the same thing when I was young," showing little enthusiasm. Once more, Wujin left feeling crushed. Years later, Wujin achieved the rank of lieutenant general and told his father about it. Yet Huan still seemed indifferent, prompting Wujin to shout, "Will I never earn your approval?" Back in the present, the human warrior looks impressed. As Wujin steps forward, Huan urgently tells him to retreat, warning that this is no ordinary opponent. But Wujin declares that it doesn't matter who he's facing, be it a god, demon, or Buddha. Anyone who sets foot on the territory must be executed. Huan tries once more to stop his son, thinking to himself that Wujin doesn't yet understand how powerful humans can be. Wujin, however, ignores him. He charges forward, shattering the human's sword and swiftly cutting down two soldiers. The human warrior, now visibly shaken, watches as his armor status displays broken. Wei Ming, observing from a distance, is stunned that Wujin eliminated two opponents with a single attack. Wujin remains silent, his presence commanding attention. The human warrior steels himself, remarking that this demon is unlike any other. He's right. Wujin takes to the air, an aura of power radiating from him. The human appears nervous as Wujin prepares an attack, green energy glowing in his hand. But it's not just an attack, it's a transformation. Wujin morphs into a massive purple dragon. Huan, watching in disbelief, wonders when this happened. When had his son surpassed him, a memory surfaces. After Wujin left the room with his report card, Huan had taken a moment to look at it. Seeing the perfect scores, he smiled, murmuring that he expected nothing less from his son. But when Wujin returned to retrieve the card, Huan quickly hid his pride, adopting his usual stoic demeanor. All Huan ever wanted was for his son to live a peaceful, ordinary life. He couldn't understand why Wujin was so fixated on joining the military. Later, when a subordinate informed Huan that Wujin had ranked first in the military exams, Huan was overjoyed, saying he always knew his son would achieve great success. The problem was that all of this went against Huan's plans. His servant had noticed that every time the name Wujin came up, it became harder to understand the general's feelings. Vinci Huan sitting under a tree, with the side of gravestone lost in thought. It was his wife's grave. He wondered why he had fallen in love with someone so connected to the dangerous path of a soldier. Yet it was undeniable. His son was a genius. In the past, while Huan led battles on the front lines, his wife handled everything at home. But she had left too soon, and now he didn't know how to deal with Wujin. From the beginning, his plan had been for his son to lead an ordinary life, one of safety and peace. Back in the present, Huan realizes he was wrong. Wujing unleashes the dragon's breath. The human warrior attempts to shield himself, but the laser blasts straight at him, triggering a massive explosion. Wujing hovers silently in the air, observing. But as the smoke clears, the human stands unharmed, laughing. Finally, he exclaims, a demon willing to give me a real challenge. The human steps forward, declaring, now let's put on a real show. Tossing his blade behind him, he taunts that the fun is just beginning. Huan, however, looks terrified. He had seen diagrams of that weapon before. It was no ordinary sword. Wujing, unshaken, simply motions for Human to come on him, but suddenly, Huan throws himself in front of the human, trying to warn Wujing about the sword. However, the human doesn't wait. He strikes. Wujing freezes as everything behind him suddenly disappears. Huan knew it. This was the blade that could cut through anything. The entire castle begins to collapse and a deep gash appears on Wujing's arm. Bingyi and the elder nearby call out his name in alarm. Huan steps forward and admits, I've been wrong this whole time. I should have said it long ago. You are my greatest pride. Wujin, tears streaming down his face, watches as his father's arm falls to the ground. Hua had been wounded, but he smiles through the pain, telling Wujing that he is certain his son will become an exceptional warrior, perhaps the strongest general the demons will ever know. That's why, Human says, Wujin must survive. The human standing before them wields the Abyss Blade, a weapon capable of killing even an SS to rank being. Even if the entire Yun Kingdom united, they wouldn't stand a chance against this foe. Hua knows he has only one option left, his trump card, a secret he has kept for decades. To protect the kingdom of Yun, he would use absolute defense. Wujin recognizes this ability immediately and pleads with his father to stop. Why are you sacrificing yourself like this? He asks. But Huan activates the Wall of Life. This ability burns the user's own life force to create an indestructible barrier of flames. It boosts his defenses by 10,000 points. As the ability activates, Huan recalls holding a young Wujing in his arms, telling him he needed to grow up strong and healthy. To make that possible, Huan was willing to lay down his life to protect the entire kingdom of Yun. Suddenly, Weiming runs forward, grabbing Huan by the arm and urging him to retreat, but the human warrior laughs at their desperation. You're joking, right? Trying to run away like this? That's just insulting, he sneers. I'm not satisfied of this performance yet, the human says. I want to see everyone's despair. But then a voice calls out from behind him, telling him not to rush. We can't let this guy die so easily, the voice says. It's Lao Tai who steps forward, claiming that the demons have been protecting a demon core this whole time. Now he offers it to the humans in hopes of joining your army. The lightning bolt strikes the ground, and the human leader turns to Lao Tai, asking if this is true. Pointing the sword at Lao Tai's head, he demands, why should I trust you? Lao Tai explains that the Kang clan has been guarding the demon core for generations. Even his ancient ancestors served the first demon king. Every demon king, Lao Tai continues, has 3 generals by their side. One skilled in magic and governance, one proficient in combat, and one a master of military strategy. But Lao Tai adds, our clan never relied on such skills to maintain our position. All we needed was the demon core. The core, he explains, is an artifact that contains the spiritual energy of the entire demon race. Only the blood of his ancestor could unlock its power, and only his clan could bless someone with its strength. The human leader admits he has heard of the demon core and acknowledges its immense power. But he asks, why have you given this to me? Do you think I'm an idiot? Suddenly, Lao Tai's expression changes. He bows his head, apologizing. I'm too weak, he admits. All I want is to keep living. The Q-shaped core rolls across the ground as Lao Tai confesses that he has no potential. If he tried to use the core himself, he would die. Furthermore, the status of his family within the demon race has been declining, and that's why he seeks a new place among the humans. Mandy steps forward, shouting at her uncle. Have you gone insane? That man has slaughtered countless of our people. She points to the human leader, reminding Lao Tai that this very man the head of his brother. The blonde human glances at the severed head nearby and nonchalantly kicks it toward Lao Tai. The head lands at his feet. Smirking, Lao Tai remarks, that fool deserved it. Who told him to provoke someone stronger than him? Understanding the difference in power is the foundation of nature. Humans or demons, it doesn't matter. Turning to the human leader, Lao Tai asks, you agree? The human laughs, amused by the betrayal. Interesting, he says. You really trusted me with something so important. Since you're so eager, I'll accept it. But then Lao Tai's expression shifts again. He covers his mouth, muttering something under his breath. Prepare yourselves, he warns. Protect the demon lord. Suddenly, Weiming sneaks up behind Huan and activates a life core destruction ability. Linyu looks confused as a green circle forms around them. Lao Tai then activates the demonic core, spilling blood over it. The core begins to open while the clueless fool asks what's happening. The demon smiles, saying his clan had been waiting for this moment for generations. This was something only he could do. For years, they had been receiving blessings from the demon race without a way to repay them. Ma'am, the place is exploding. Everything starts to get swept away, but luckily, everyone is inside the dual barrier within the main barrier. The energy continues sweeping through the city, disintegrating all the soldiers. From a distance, Meyer asks what's going on. In the skies, once again, a golden lightning bolt appears as rain pours down. It strikes the ground as the smoke clears. Man, low ties all burned up. He says, unfortunately, he used up all the power he had. But that was just 1% of the demonic core. While Jin helps his father, Lao Tai falls to the ground, saying he feels frustrated. The class's Dragon Geta had been summoned, using its absolute defensibility to blot all damage for 30 seconds. He lets out a roar, and Human remains unscathed, saying they had made the wrong choice. Using the trump card without knowing the cards he had hidden was foolish. He then walks toward the fallen Lao Tai, who's clutching the cube. As he tries to grab it, a lightning bolt strikes, severing his hand. The blonde man asks if he's ready to face the consequences. Holding the cube, he says he never expected to find something like this in such an insignificant place. No wonder it was the birthplace of the Demon King. He tucks the cube into his shirt and says it's time to get back on track. Looking back, he tells the others to finish the job, but the dragon hesitates. The human asks if it doesn't want to kill its own kind. Suddenly, a strange robot attached to its neck sinks its claws in. The monster begins writhing in pain and suddenly changes expression. It charges at Wyman, who prepares a shield. He orders everyone to protect the girl, but she says they should worry about saving themselves. The blonde man stands still and says dealing with demons is always like this. He vanishes in a blur and strikes Wai Ming, saying dealing with humans is always irritating. His hand was embedded in the old man when suddenly, Hoon appears beside him. He tries to throw a punch, but another man grabs his arm, activating the Eye of Judgment. This ability lets him understand his opponent's attributes after battling them. Chuan had about 1,400 strength and 1,500 vitality. The blonde man remarks that these two highest attributes must be what Huon is most proud of. What a pity, as they were far too low, and he was going to destroy them. He twists Yuan's arm, contorting him. As he slams the poor bag to the ground, a green piddle appears in front of them. Wujin emerges from it, ready to attack. But the blonde man seems calm, vanishing just in time and reappearing behind Wujin, analyzing again. Wujin, on the other hand, had 2,700 in attributes. The blonde man says it's impressive. Wujin had the potential to become a demon king, but it was a pity he'd die here. Yet it was undeniable that having over 2,000 speed was remarkable. In a second, he appears in front of Wujin, saying he must be fastest demon in the area. He delivers a hard kick, sending Wujin flying. Man, another one bleeding out. He steps on Wujin's leg, saying it's time to strip away the speed he's so proud of. Wujin writhes in pain as the blonde man asks why an ant thinks it can topple a tree. It didn't matter. No one here had attributes high enough to face him. Lightning begins striking the ground as everyone watches. A mass of shadows starts to emerge. This was an S-rank ability that allowed him to create copies of himself as long as he had enough energy. Slowly, Wyming starts getting up. A hand grabs Bingy by the mouth, and the man says he's always wondered, are demons really so weak, or why did he even exist? It was then that he began to understand. Man, why? He killed the kitten, for crying out loud. Oh no, someone has to kill this guy. Now's the time for our protagonist to show up and kill this son of a. The bastard says he now understands the value of their existence. Demons existed solely for his amusement. He lets her fall to the ground. Bimi, utterly broken yet strong, says there's no more hope. Man, she even takes another kick to the face. At that moment, Huan stands up, saying this time they had lost. But he alone would face death head-on. The human praises him, saying that even at the end, the kingdom's protector had such integrity. However, ending things like this would be less fun. He nods and Huan hears a scream. Turning around, he sees Wujin immobilized. The man asks if that isn't his son and says he'll spare Wujin's life if Huan kneels. If he does, his son walks free. Wujin calls the man a beast, saying his father would never do such a thing. However, the blonde man keeps laughing, saying they should enjoy their one and only chance. Shuan hesitates for a second and then falls to his knees, pleading with the man to keep his word. His son just stands there, watching. The blonde man then asks Wujin if he doesn't want to save his father, offering him to sing opportunity. But Wujin shouts, telling him to stop playing games with this. The man simply smiles and delivers a blow straight to Huan's chest. As Huan begins to fall, he takes a slash to one arm, then to the other. Man, how many cuts is he going to give him? Huan collapses to his knees now, begging for the fight to stop. In the background, Mingyu watches everything, crying. The blonde man then says that now that both of them are kneeling, he's in a tough spot because he doesn't know which one to kill. That's when Human locks eyes with him, feels something, and throws himself onto the blade. Wujin screams, but his father simply says that with this, choice has been made for him. But the blonde man isn't happy. He asks who gave Huan permission to act on his own like that. He pulls the sword out, saying Huan broke the rules, and because of that, he's abandoning his promise. The game is about to restart. Wujin lunges toward him but gets struck in the chest. Bingy keeps calling out to him, everyone crying. I just want to know when Dalma will show up. It's been, what? 10 chapters since he disappeared. The blonde man then starts pulling a chain from the ground. Suddenly, everyone's hands are bound and are lifted into the air. Man, look at what this guy's done in the past. Someone please kill this guy already. Wujin gets struck in the stomach. The man says he's avoiding all vital points to ensure they'll endure as much pain as possible. He then calls for the dragon to approach. Placing the sword on his shoulder, he declares it's time for the final celebration. He orders someone to summon Vice Commander Battle Lee, saying Bao Lai must be tired of playing by now. But the person on the other end of the line responds, saying he's gotten quite bold. The blonde man asks through speaking and where Bao Lai is. Someone behind him shouts that Bao Lai is right there. He turns around and Dongwo has finally arrived with his rank S team of 7. Dongwo says he's seen enough of this situation. He didn't expect a man to stoop so low in his quest for power. Dongwo blames himself for letting things get this bad for the people. But this was something he should have known. A beast will always be a beast. For all the crimes the man has committed, he deserves to be executed slowly. The blonde man scoffs, calling Dongwo another piece of trash. He disappears from the dragon's side, saying he'll finish this quickly, and is already in front of Dongwo, smiling. But then he takes a punch to the face so hard it breaks his glasses, unable to even calculate the force. Dongwo slams him against the wall while the blonde man struggles to understand what just happened. Dongwo says he doesn't even know where to begin. The man that rebelled against the army's rules abused the women of this city and murdered his comrades. But Dongwo would ensure he paid for every one of his crimes. Confused, the blonde man asks what he's talking about. Behind him, Bao Lai is crawling, saying there's something very wrong with this demon. Since the first moment they met, this demon seemed far too concerned with human affairs. The story flashes back to now long ago in Young City, destroyed by war. Bao Lai tells the ice puppet not to kill the little girl. But first, he intended to enjoy the charming woman. Qin Xiao was just watching her mother. The man licked his lips and asked if it wasn't a problem for the daughter to see this. But then suddenly, there was an impact and shards of ice flew toward him. Dongwo had destroyed one of the puppets. The man demanded to know why so many low-level demons were interfering with his plans. He cast a spell, summoning a high-ranking puppet in front of him. The man said this creature shared half his blood and half his power. But before he could finish speaking, Dongwo had already charged and punched through it. There wasn't even time for the man to be shocked because a slap had already landed on his face. By killing another enemy of the human realm, Dongwo gained 500,000 experience points. Additionally, he acquired a copying ability that allowed him to replace one of his skills with one from someone he killed. Dongwo then tells the man it's time to come clean. He wants to know what happened to his army. After much pressure, Bao Lai reveals the truth. The former army captain was named Xia Feng Liao. They used a backway as an opportunity to execute their plan. The plan involved using the vice captain to kill Xia Feng Liao. But even after torturing the man, he refused to betray a captain. When others arrived to witness the scene, the vice captain only said Xia Feng Liao was there. He flowed with a dagger as soon as they approached. He barely managed to save Huan, but this event painted him as a traitor to the army. With that, they launched an attack to depose him. With most of the army on their side, it was extremely easy. It was also during his time that they acquired that sword. With his father's influence, Sin Jibyo became the supreme commander. Back in the present, Bao Li questions why the boy is so interested in all this. Dongwo simply asks why no one resisted or questioned anything. Bao Lai explains that they already knew who might resist, and those individuals were sacrificed before anything started. It was the fault of those who were too loyal to the former Feng Xiao. He then says he's told Dongwo everything he knows and demands to be put down. But instead, Dongwo lands a punch straight to his groin. Dongwo tells him to stay quiet as a girl approaches, calling his name. She's brought the armor he had given to Wei Ming, explaining that Wei Ming wanted Dongwo to use it to take the king as far as possible. She adds that she received a strange message, and if they seem to encounter some trouble. Dongwo equips the full armor set, uses an ability to make it appear like regular clothes, and starts carrying Bao Lai. The demoness tries to warn him that the situation is very dangerous, but he tells her to just take him to Sim Jibyo. Back in the present, Dongwo slams the ground with a punch. Bao Lai still can't understand why Dongwo is so interested in humans. Meanwhile, Sin Jibiel begins activating his golden whitening, equipping some deer and analysis glasses. The glasses reveal that Dongwo has over 4,100 strength. However, Xin Jibiel remains confident, saying that aside from strength, the rest of Dongwo's attributes are garbage. In terms of speed, Dongwo has less than half his own. Xin Jibiel launches another attack with his horns, confident that Dongwo only dodged last time as sheer luck. But luck doesn't last forever. Just as the clone is about to land its hit, Dongwo vanishes and punches one of them in the face, sending it flying. Jibio can't comprehend how Dongwo is faster with lower attributes. Obviously, the real Jibio is hiding behind the dragon, confident that based on what he's seen with the glasses, it's impossible for Dongwo to win. The issue is that the clones theoretically share attributes very close to his. Not to mention, Dongwo's opportunity attributes seem to be 0. Something was clearly off. We then see Jibio's stats. Over 5,400 strength, made possible, of course, by the sword he's carrying. With his extra speed, it should be impossible for him to lose. The plan is to attack one more time to figure out what's going on. He prepares a stealthy strike, but ends up taking another punch to the face. While the Clomandid's beaten, Jibio wonders what Dongwo is hiding. Dongwo remarks that Jibio seems overly confident for someone so weak. The reason Jibio can't figure it out is that Dongwo have the title of Demon King. All of his attributes are tripled but can't be detected. Still, Jibio unleashes another sequence of lightning bolts, refusing to believe it. But Domwo keeps dodging, landing a punch to the ribs, a kick to the stomach, and another heavy punch to the face. The fool falls to the ground, and Dongwo glances to the side. Jibio stops and mutters that Dongwo can't possibly be this fast. But Dongwo is already behind him, slamming him into the ground. Realizing he can't win in a direct fight, Jibio threatens Dongwo, saying he has his chief's life in his hands. If Dongwo isn't careful, she'll die at any moment. Woojin, standing nearby, asks if that's his solution when he can't be his enemy. Jibio ignores him, wrapping a chain around her neck. But Dongwo walks forward calmly, saying that tactic is outdated. Jibio shouts that if Dongwo takes another step, everyone there will die. He tightens the chain, choking Woojin, and everyone else bound. Turning to Dongwo, Jibio asks if he isn't supposed to be a capable demon. He pulls the chain tighter, declaring that in the end, Dongwo is just a person. Even if Dongwo saves one of them, he'll kill the other. The choice is his. Dongwo clenches his fists and rushes toward him. Jibio is startled that Dongwo is really coming him. Woojin tells Dongwo to save the demon lord. Dongwo keeps advancing and shoves his fingers into the clone's face, sending it crashing to the ground like trash. Woojin asks why Dongwo saved him instead of Bingi, but Dongwo tells him to take another look, explaining that he wasn't going to save just one. He had stolen Bao Li's puppet creation ability and used it to save her. He then commands the Dolm to protect everyone there. They start free everyone while Bao Li stammers, asking how this is possible. That was his ability. When did Dongwo learn it? As far as Bao Li knew, it was completely unique. Suddenly, one of Jibio's clones attacks the puppet from behind, but the puppet effortlessly lands a punch, sending it crashing to the ground. It's revealed that this is how Dongwo defeated Bao Li and decided to copy his ability. Jibio realizes that Dongwo having this skill is entirely his fault. Strangely, this ability came from the demon cavern. While powerful, it has two weaknesses. First, it requires water nearby to activate. Second, creating the Dalam consumes a significant amount of blood. If the Dalam is as strong as Dongwo, he must have used nearly all his blood. This means the real Dongwo is currently weak. Jibio yells for the captain to ignore the Dalams and attack the original body. He believes Dongwo is bluffing and one hit could end everything. Dongwo stands still silent. Once again, the attack comes from behind. The blow seems to land perfectly and Jibio even celebrates, declaring he's finally won. But Dongwo simply tells him to keep going. Confused, Jibio looks back and asks how Dongwo was still alive when he was on the brink of death. Before Dongwo can respond, Jibio launches another attack. Each strike, however, only deals between 100 and 300 damage. Dongwo merely asks if this is the best Jibio can do. Once again, Jibio activates his analysis ability. That's when he notices that Dongwo's health bar is still full. Worse yet, the health and status bars are the least of his concerns. What's truly strange is that this boy has an entirely different aura. Dongwo pulls out a massive blue sword and asks if Jibio has already used all his attacks. Jibio begins to panic, realizing that if he doesn't find a solution, he might actually die today. Suddenly, as the dragon stomps on the ground, it shoots upward like lightning. Jibio seems to find solace, thanking the heavens for being on his side. With enough lightning in the skies, he could continue creating infinite clones. But Dongwo activates the Blood Ice Golem ability again, announcing that he'll leave those clones to the golems. The golems keep an eye on the battered group, and it's clear that Hyun has lost both his arms. Lying on the ground, Bao Li mutters that he should have realized from the moment Dongwo appeared why he was so invested in humans. He wonders how Dongwo knows so much about the army and the captain. Dongwo responds that in a storm, lightning isn't the only element present. He begins summoning more golems, declaring that now he has a continuous water source. Even if Jibio believes Dongwo's stats are lower, invoking this legion would prove otherwise. The dragon stands still as the clums bow to the army. Jibio looks at the creature, asking why it isn't moving. That's when Dongwo suddenly appears beside him, activating a celestial transformation in his hand and delivering another punch to Jibio's face. Dongwo tells him that it's taken long enough, but this war is about to end. Once again, Jibio substitutes himself to survive. He has realized that in a direct confrontation, there's no way he can win. However, he's starting to understand the boy's ability. Dongwo has incredibly high regeneration, but every attack causes him to lose blood. Jibio's plan is to use his SSS rank weapon's energy storage ability. Once it's fully charged, he can cut Dongwo in half with a single strike. All he has to do is keep stalling for as long as possible. But then one of the ice clones sneaks up from behind and stabs him in the chest. Jibio writhes in pain, activating his electricity. Apparently, he becomes lightning itself, jumping from one clone to another and escaping. However, the damage had already been dealt to his main body. Amusingly, after taking the hit, Jibio claims he can swap places with his clones, so he's not in danger. Sure thing, buddy. It seems like you might be in danger. Bao Li, who seems to have an IQ of 16, finally begins to understand the captain's plans. He's confident the captain will win since the Dalams are limited by time. Jibio smirks, saying it doesn't matter what Dongwo does, he will never kill him. That's when Dongwo immobilizes a clone and asks, "Who's gonna try and kill this guy?" He's made it very clear that this man must pay for his crimes with the slowest death possible. Gibio continues to demand his release, remembering how, as a child, he also claimed he didn't want things to guide too easily. Donwo tells him that every clone is still a part of him. This means the pain the clones experience always returns to him. Exhausted, Gibio wonders how Donwo knows this. Donwo begins listing every crime Gibio has committed, stating that none of it would be resolved with a simple death. He crushes a clone's head, causing Gibio to writhe in agony. The ice creatures continue tearing apart the rest of the clones. Donwo slices through another, saying Gibio will feel every one of these attacks. You must pay for all the pain he inflicted on others. Lying on the ground, Bao Lai realizes that the captain's ability is now the biggest problem. Gibio is starting to lose his mind from the pain. Yet Gibio remains confident, knowing that all he needs to do is finish charging the sword. It's almost ready. Finally, the weapon reaches full charge. He raises it high, declaring that with this strike, the entire demon clan will be erased. The golden light shoots into the sky. We then see a small creature hopping from branch to branch in the forest. It hides behind some grass and looks around. A soldier passes by, asking if anyone has seen the lightning dragon. The creature, perched on a tree, watches them move past. It approaches a younger Donwo and is startled. The creature tries to attack, but Donwo simply offers it some food. He tells it that he hates the war between humans and demons as it's causing so many to go hungry. All he wants is for it to end. Back in the present, Gibio declares that this is Donwo's end. This will be the attack that wipes out the entire demon clan. The dragon watches the two of them. Donwo stretches his hand forward and says, "Return." The blonde man is ready to deliver the final strike. Suddenly, the entire sword disintegrated. It flew through the air and reassembled directly in Donwo's hand. He said, now it's finally back with its rightful owner. The clueless Gibio was utterly confused. Everything he had endured was to wield this sword. So what happened? Donwo simply thanked him for helping recharge the sword. As he approached Gibio, he raised the sword, creating a tornado around him. The clones began to evaporate and a sphere of energy formed around them. The force was so immense that even the skies cleared. From the ground, Bao Lai murmured that he had always known it was him. The dragon looked at Donwo and said, "Now you're truly back." Man, was that little creature from the forest the same monster now? Look at the resemblance between our boy as a human and as a demon. Gibio was still completely baffled by what was happening. Most of the clones started to dissipate and the black clouds and energy began to fade. Gibio found himself on his knees surrounded by all the creatures. A sword stopped beside him and Donwo declared that the war was over. We flash back to the Sacred Kingdom 2 years earlier. Someone pointed out asking if they saw the demon fall. A younger Donwo replied saying to bring it back. The names and the descriptions seem all mixed up, but trust me, it was Donwo. He asked if she was mad about bringing the demon in her mouth, saying it made her look like a dog. Then he said he knew very well what the demon liked to be called. He patted its back, calling it his best friend. Back in the present, the Thunder Dragon, Geta, still had that device around its neck. Gibio, beneath it, ordered the dragon to block Donwo. Donwo told him to give up. There wasn't any more lightning in this place to recharge. Gibio could struggle all he wanted, but there was nowhere left to run. The blonde man, however, was confident knowing the dragon had over 10,000 speed. He believed it was impossible for anyone to catch him. He pressed the button and ordered the dragon to fetch him, threatening to detonate it otherwise. Geta seemed to resist but was visibly crying. It was the first time I'd seen a dragon with tears streaming down its face. Donwo was furious, realizing those bastards had installed explosives inside it. Gibio ran toward the dragon, managing to climb onto its head. Meanwhile, Bao Lai begged to be taken along, but he was of course ignored as the dragon flew off. Gibio muttered to himself that it was worth it. In the end, he was still leaving with the magic core. Wei Ming commented that at this rate, Gibio would manage to escape. Wu Ming looked at Donwo and remarked that something seemed to be on his mind. Donwo was considering giving up. He thought there was no chance of capturing Gibio without risking Geta's life. This left him disheartened until he heard a voice in his head. Someone told him they believe in him. It was the dragon's voice saying it trusted him, so there was no reason for hesitation. Gibio struggled to hold onto the dragon, which asked Donwo if he remembered the game they used to play. Then it lunged to bite Gibio, catching him midair. With Gibio in its mouth, the dragon told Donwo that it was his turn now. It turned back toward Donwo, who steeled his expression and prepared the sword. Gibio, still in the dragon's mouth, yelled not to blame him. He activated this self-destruct device, declaring that at the very least, he would die there. The self-destruct countdown ticked from 83% to 90%. Donwo observed as it reached 97%. At 99.5%, he delivered a precise slash, destroying the device around the dragon's neck. The dragon managed to land safely. The demons were still frozen in fear. The fool Bao Lai was still trying to comprehend why everything was going so wrong. As the smoke cleared, Gibio lay in a pool of blood. Slowly, Donwo approached. Gibio began pleading for mercy. Man, considering he was missing half his body, and sparing him wouldn't do much good. The man clawed at the ground, asking why. Why did he have to be completely destroyed? Donwo simply narrowed his eyes and said that from the moment Gibio betrayed him, He should have known this would happen. Confused, Jibio asked what betrayal Donghua was talking about, and they didn't even know each other. But Donghua chose not to explain. He raised the sword and told Jibio that when he saw Yunha, he'd better kneel and beg for forgiveness. At the last second, Jibio recognized him as Shafeng Liao, but it was too late as his face was cut. Now I get it. The man they betrayed and framed in this life was Shafeng Liao. He was the protagonist in his previous life, but now he's in the past. Man, things just got complicated. And worse for Jibio, who took a slash for every atrocity he committed. The guy was sliced up like sashimi. I thought Donghua was going to deliver the final blow, but he kept punishing Jibio for more crimes. It's hard to believe Jibio isn't dead by now, right? Finally, execution. Donghua delivered 1 billion more cuts for everything Jibio had done. And now it's done. Watching all this, Bao Lai declared that he was now sure this demon was one of them, and that Shifeng Liao had never been a deserter. So now it's explained they betrayed Shifeng Liao in this life and made him desert. Because of that, Donghua killed an S01 class demon. The course of the story had changed and he gained 2.2 million experience points. But then comes a plot twist. The scene shifts to a girl looking at a guy in a capsule. She says that now things were being completed. She mentioned that the weapon, the equipment, and the dragon had apparently all returned to him. The only thing missing was the woman. Man, she's really eager, and the girl is putting in the effort. The seaman shifts to the human base with someone saying they've received a message from the army. Year 511 had been completely defeated, and Jinbio had sacrificed himself. That old man there is Sin Chang of the Divine Legion and was Jinbio's father. Sin Chang must be the most Chinese name I'd ever seen in my life. The old man asks if they found the body, and the people say unfortunately not. He then says to prepare a national funeral with an empty coffin. The message was to be sent to everyone that his son had died honorably on the battlefield. He continues fishing while someone behind him is clenching their fists. It's Hunlame Jinbio's sister, who says that damn young kingdom, she would make sure to kill everyone who lived there. The scene then shifts to a somewhat Arabian city. Inside the castle of the Wind Kingdom, a horn guy says that this letter came from the Conference of Alliances and asks His Majesty has chosen the representative. This guy is the king of the Wind Kingdom named Mo Feng. He knows that this Conference of Alliances is just a public humiliation for small nations like his. He then says that his city can barely produce rank talents, and every time they send people, few return. But the guy completely ignores this and just asks if he has already decided. The man begins to transform, and Mo Feng asks for 2 days to choose the people. Well, man, but he was already killed with the guy saying that now the decision is made. The scene then goes to the young kingdom, and there's someone going to talk to Bingyi. Obviously, there's also someone delivering the so-called letter of the Conference of Alliances. The messenger says they never imagined that the young kingdom would be attacked like this, and they've already sent some support. Bingyi is injured but healthy, saying she appreciates the assistance they will send. The demoness thanks her back, saying she's looking forward to knowing who will be the representatives of the Alliance this year. After all, this is the biggest annual event of the entire demon race. We then see a construction site. Someone extends their power and man, the whole building is reassembling. It's Tian Xiao working hard, until someone approaches and tells him to rest because the general wants to see him. Ma'am, that's Lao Tai. The guy is alive at least. Well, not entirely, he's got his horns bandaged. He says he didn't expect to see a child helping, but Tian Xiao just says that it's the right thing to do since they also helped his mother. Apparently, it's Lao Tai who lost one of his hearts, which ended up in Tian Xiao's mother because of a promise his brother had made. He tells the boy that what he did is right, and there are always good and bad people among humans or demons. But karma doesn't see differences between races. Lao Tai asks to be forgiven, saying he swears never to attack this place again. But too late, friend, you became the dog's meal. Lao Tai apologizes for the false promises his brother made and says there's no reason to care about his death. But Qian Xiao says that's not true. His brother was really scary. He remembers very well how he acted when the humans invaded the city. The big guy told the kid to run. The heart had already been removed from his body, and he didn't want it to be wasted. The problem was that in the middle of the escape, they encountered the bastard. That's when the big guy told him to take that heart that would be delivered to his mother and disappear from that place. He swore he would stay there to at least buy him some time. That's what Tian Xiao tells Lao Tai, that in his last moments, his brother was a savior. Lao Tai stays silent for a second and then laughs. He then cries, saying he never understood anything. In the end, his brother hadn't changed at all since they were children. On top of the walls, Wanming tells Donghua that now he is the most powerful person in Yun Kingdom. And because of that, by a unanimous decision of the 3 generals, the rarest artifact would be given to him. That would not only have the capacity to elevate him to rank S, but also grant extraordinary abilities. But Donghua tells them to keep it. So much energy would be much better spent rebuilding this entire kingdom, especially since he was preparing to leave this place. Confused, Wanming asks why he's joking about this. Meanwhile, Donghua thinks that he knew they would react like this. As quickly as possible, he wants to find a way to become human again. He's still worried about Handi and whether she's safe. After all, he was human, and they were demons. He couldn't keep getting so close and developing feelings. He's realizing that it's getting harder and harder to die, and he's sure the demons won't help him with that. Suddenly, The dragon tells him to relax because Princess He was safe for now, and he wasn't going to leave there alone because he would always be by his side. Dongwo thanks him, saying it's always good to have him around. Data then asks Dongwo where he plans to go. Meanwhile, Wei Ming keeps pressing to know his plans, but the dragon simply spreads his wings and flies away. In another part of the city, Wujin is lying in bed beside his father. He asks that his father knows when the next prosthetic arm will arrive. Shuan replies that he's already asked it 3 times today. Huan wonders why his son is so worried and if it's because of that person. Wujin ignores him and tells his father to rest. From the moment he saw that man at the court and after everything he did in the cave, he should have realized it much sooner. That man wasn't a demon at all. He belonged to the race Wujin hated most. In another part of the mountains, the system window displays the same message, stating that the only way to become human again is to die. Dongwo tells Gaida that, unfortunately, no matter how many times he tries, that's the only answer. The problem is that with his current power and abilities, it's far too difficult for anyone to kill him. He needs to find someone above rank S with an ability to kill him instantly. But even in his past life, the only time he encountered something like that was in the Demon Tower. He mentions to Jeddah that there's one solution, but it requires him to remember that he's just a contracted beast. Thinking of a way to help kill his master makes him feel bad. Suddenly, a boulder at the top of the mountain begins to fall, heading straight for Dongwo's head. But Giva slices it apart effortlessly. Gita says that, unfortunately, as a contracted beast, you will protect Dongwo no matter what happens. Out of nowhere, a bear appears to attack Dongwo, but it gets blasted with a laser to the face. The dragon apologizes, saying he's not doing this intentionally. Night falls, and the bear becomes dinner. Dongwo, now full, picks up his sword and tells the dragon that it's best for him to recharge too. He slashes, activating a dimensional space. As they are about to enter, Dongwo begins dismantling the sword. He says that at dusk, they'll head east in search of the Demon Tower. Even though it's a vague objective, it's the only option he has. And if that's the case, what else can he do? But then, he senses someone approaching. The person places the blade to his neck and asks if the handsome one is planning to leave without saying goodbye. It's Mujin, who says there's a celebration happening in Yun's territory, yet the true hero is trying to run away. Donwo asks why Wujin isn't drinking there instead of coming here. But Wujin ignores him, demanding to know Donwo's true purpose in coming to the Yun kingdom. The protagonist notices Wujin's fury, but also realizes he has no intention of killing him. Wujin keeps pressing, asking about his connection to humans and why he knows so much about them. Why does the Thunder Dragon follow him, and why did that human weapon fly into his hand? Dongwo grabs his sword and reveals that he is human. He pushes Wujin's arm aside and says it's a pity, but Wujin can't kill him now. After all, dying wouldn't be a bad thing for him. Wujin responds that he's noticed Dongwo is always seeking death and doesn't understand why. From the trouble with his father to the events in the cave, Wujin doesn't get why Dongwo wants this. Dongwo reveals that dying is the only way for him to return to being human, which he originally was, though strangely he ended up in this demon body. Wujin then asks why Dongwo killed that human captain if he didn't mean to save anyone. He could have simply died at the hands of that man and thus returned to being human. A human army would have won, and Dongwo probably would have gotten what he wanted. Wujin has a point. It's true. But Dongwo replies that it's not about the side he's on, but about the things he believes in. He couldn't tolerate something as evil as that. Wujin releases Dongwo's neck and says it's humans who keep bringing misery to their territory, bringing death and destruction, and may even killed his mother. That's why he hates humans and believes they all deserve to die, and Dongwo deserves to die along with them. But deep down, he really hoped Dongwo was still a demon. The dragon tells Dongwo that he can feel Wujin seeking a bit of comfort, but Dongwo remains cold, simply saying he's leaving. The dragon asks if he's really not going to say anything, but Dongwo says he can't form any connections. That's when Wujin reveals that in a week, there will be a Wyatt's tournament, the most important competition among the 18 demon nations. A battle where each nation must send 2 demons, and obviously the strongest will appear, including numerous S-class demons. If Dongwo truly wanted to die that much, this would be a perfect opportunity. Even though he's the strongest in the Young Kingdom, he shouldn't underestimate the entire demon race. Dongwo seems intrigued and asks if participants in this tournament can really kill each other. Wujin confirms, saying that the participants have no fear of death because they carry the pride of their nation. Obviously, in Young's current state, no one wants to risk their life. And that's why the Demon Lord allowed both of them to participate. Wujin was going to help Dongwo come up with a strategy to die. However, the Demon King couldn't let anyone else kill him. Only Wujin could deliver the final blow when the time came. Dongwu stayed silent but immediately agreed. It was exactly what he wanted. Wujin explained that the Demon Alliance was composed of 18 kingdoms. It was said that the world's powers came from mysterious regions, and currently, the demons controlled 2 of them. The Alliance gathering served 2 purposes: to bring all the leaders to one place and to determine the leader of the entire Demon Alliance. The method for this was the tournament, held once every 3 years. The demon world was fair. Whoever was strongest reigned supreme. Only the victor of the final battle could lead the demon race. But obviously, it was also a stage for the strong kingdoms to showcase their power. Bingby explained that the beauty of the tournament had faded, that all the kingdoms that participated were full of schemes, only attending for their own interests. To guarantee victory, they sent the most ruthless demons and used the lowest methods. So much so that in the last tournament, only 5 of the 36 participants survived. Of course, none of the demons sent by the young kingdom returned alive. She said it wasn't too late for them to back out. She could write a letter ensuring it wouldn't participate. But upon looking, the 2 had already disappeared. Poor Bingy, they were already gone. Damo was looking out the window of the airship, seeing the Flame Kingdom for the first time. The airship was futuristic but was being carried by the dragon, combining nature and technology perfectly. We then see the capital of the Flame City known as Beiji. Then you mentioned how much the place had changed in just a few years. She said they should check in quickly since there was going to be a banquet that night. But once again, the 2 had disappeared. Damo was intrigued by the exotic fruits around. Meanwhile, Woojin swore to himself that he would deliver the final blow. Woojin was eyeing a shop while Dongwo was more interested in legendary fruits. The vendor explained that the fruit was cultivated in demonic fields and had instant recovery effects. There was an extremely rare item known as watermelon. Woojin, on the other hand, was amazed that a street shop had so many rank weapons, while the young kingdom had to use secret factories to produce special weapons. The shopkeeper chimed in, commenting about the young kingdom, saying it couldn't even compare to the Flame Kingdom. The Flame Kingdom had more power, resources, a stronger economy, and much larger land. He asked if Dalmo was there to watch the tournament. Dalmo was about to say yes, but before he could answer, a girl next to him made a noise. This was one of the competitors from the Yu Kingdom. Young Kingdom adds an N, remember? Shang Lin commented that the Yu Kingdom must have run out of talent if they were sending someone like him. Woojin was furious, but the girl simply turned to the vendor, ordering him to pack all the rank items and send them to the Xambala Hotel. She handed him the money and said she was looking forward to seeing if the Yu Kingdom could surprise anyone this year. It would be nice if they were different from the past, as the only opponent for her was her own kingdom. Woojin sensed that the girl was clearly a ranked demon. Later at the hotel, he told Bingyi that the people in this region were far too arrogant. She replied that it was to be expected. No one would be friendly right before a championship. The truth was that when these tournaments first began, those kingdoms had similar strength. But over time, the Flame Kingdom, Yu Kingdom, and Lake Kingdom kept accumulating power. And as the saying goes, the strong get stronger, especially considering that these 3 kingdoms almost always alternated victories among themselves. The prize for the competition was a stone that allowed a demon to advance to rank S. The winner also became the commander of the 18 armies, gaining the right to use the Alliance's mines. Dongwu seemed impressed by something. Mamie said they had arrived at the greatest pride of the entire demon race. Just then, someone appeared behind them. A man pushing a girl in a wheelchair asked if this was the Chambala Hotel. Shang Lin commented that she run into those weirdos buying watermelons again. Woojin was already losing his temper, ready to hag her. But Binyi calmly told him not to fall for the trap, reminding him that the tournament was about to begin. Meanwhile, Damo was talking to some people who said they were from the Mist Kingdom. Damo warned them not to go easy on him if they encountered him in the tournament. Binyi, seeing this, suggested they leave quickly, but suddenly she felt a strange energy behind her and her backpack flew off. Damo didn't seem too concerned, wondering where the invisible thief was. But the guy from the Mist Kingdom stepped forward, telling Dongwo to watch his sister. He closed his eyes, exuded a blue energy, spread his arms, and summoned energy behind him. Suddenly, they were in a sea of energy. He opened his eyes and said, "Found them." He stretched his hand, launching an ice attack, and froze the invisible thief's foot. As soon as the thief looked up, Woojin was right in front of him, declaring that such behavior must be punished violently. The guy immediately reveals that he's from the Fallen Kingdom, and just begs not to be handed over to the guards. Meanwhile, Damo praises the boy for easily finding the invisible thief. Bindi thanks him too and asks if he's already rank S. The boy named Lacey says the Mist Kingdom has never had a ranks demon, but he's working hard toward it. The scene shifts to inside the hotel, where they all enter. They're registering while a guard announces that apparently everyone has arrived. A man in a white suit nearby says it's time for the preliminaries to begin. Walking through the corridor is people comment on how crowded the place is today. Looking at the clock, Bingi remarks that they'll miss the banquet at this rate. Dongwo, while walking, finds it strange that they sent the wheelchair user to compete. Finally, it's their turn, but Bingi calls the mist group over, telling them to go ahead. The receptionist asks for their documents, wondering why they're not already in hand. A bit embarrassed, Lacey hands over the documents and asks if she's referring to these. But suddenly, everyone starts murmuring about someone arriving. A man lounging in a chair comments that every time this guy shows up, it's a spectacle. Who's this now? Oh, here comes Lin and Lai from the Lei Kingdom. The man was the biggest star, and apparently, they sent a wheelchair user just so she'd die in combat. Or not look at her serious expression as she speaks. As they enter, one of the guards approaches the line and orders everyone to move aside. The guard even tells Lacey to get out of the way. Lacey doesn't respond, and the guard throws him aside. The girl calls out to him but feels a hand on her shoulder. It's Dongwo staring seriously. The receptionist tells Lin Lai that his mother can skip registration entirely. Lin Lai replies, telling his siblings to escort his mother while he handles the check-in. And out of nowhere, he's hit by Donwell. As he stumbles into the arms of the guards, Donwell picks up Lacey's sister and places her back in line, declaring that they would go first. The receptionist is utterly confused, unsure what to do. Meanwhile, the man in the white suit is eagerly anticipating the show. The problem is that Donwell is taking a risk for getting the title Lin Lai holds, the most powerful of all of demons. Lin Li asks if he was really pushed. He approaches Dongwo, commenting on his bravery. But Dongwo completely ignores him, only asking the receptionist if there's an issue with the documents. Lin Li places a hand on Dongwo's shoulder and asks if he can't hear him speaking. Clearly, Lin Lai is exerting a tremendous force, but nothing is happening. Lujin mutters that Dongwo should rip his hand off. Lin Li pauses for a moment and lets out a Joker-style laugh. Even Wujin feels the pressure. Lin Lai, now excited, says he admires Dongwo's courage. He finds his power fascinating and can't wait to see his abilities. But suddenly, someone raises a hand, asking Mr. Lin not to do this, as he would be disqualified. It's a short demon who declares that Lin Lai is a super VIP and doesn't even need to be in the common registration area. Lin Lai should already be in the luxurious suites and shouldn't concern himself with these lowly people. After all, the common quarters are only for smaller kingdoms. Lin Lai retreats, saying he understands, and bids farewell to the two, stating that the competition awaits. Wujin approaches the receptionist, asking how long they'll have to wait. A demon from Uklingo steps forward, saying he'll handle it. He asks if Lacey's card is valid and informs him that the girl beside him isn't authorized to check in. Lacey protests, saying it doesn't make sense since the invitation allowed him to bring a family guest. But the demon dismisses him, claiming there's no proof she's his family. He also mentions that the rooms are nearly full. Donwo begins to notice how much harder everything is for the lower-ranked kingdoms. Jim grabs the demon by the neck, reminding him that they are invited participants and should be treated with respect. But the demon tells him to let go, warning that Jim isn't competing and could cause their team to be disqualified. Reluctantly, Jim releases him. The demon seers saying kingdoms like Yun and in this kingdom should never have joined the alliance. It's ridiculous for them to demand to be treated as important people. But Bindi intervenes, stating that everyone there is overestimating themselves. Suddenly, the demon explodes in rage, calling them a bunch of filthy farmers who only came to steal food and drink. Jin grabs the demon's mouth and begins lifting him, pulling him by the neck. But Bingi steps in, tossing him aside. She declares that coming to this place and experiencing everything for free is a great blessing. However, that doesn't mean they should be treated differently. She slams the demon to the ground, proclaiming that as the current lord of Yun, she will not allow her citizens to be humiliated. She is a descendant of Liu Yun and was present at the formation of the 18 nations. What the demon just said now gives her the right to give a like in this video that helps Mamoru make more juicy content for his viewers. Activate the Chituo bell. I am out.